Let's begin with a truth that most never hear. The 3D world is not what it looks like. It's not your enemy. It's not a test. It's not even the final version of your life. It's an echo, a living, breathing reflection of thoughts and assumptions you no longer even identify with. But if someone only ever sees what's showing up now, they'll mistake the echo for the cause, the result for the source, the mirror for the face. This video isn't about repeating the same tired advice. It's not about telling anyone to just trust when everything feels like it's falling apart. That kind of advice can sting more than help when there's confusion about what's really happening. So let's get honest, not in a way that weighs heavier on the heart, but in a way that finally sets it free. If the current situation looks hopeless, if circumstances are screaming nothing is changing, understand this: what's being experienced is not a verdict on who someone is or what's possible. It's simply evidence of what was once believed to be true. Here's where the shift begins. The 3D isn't lying because it's evil or out to get anyone. It's lying because it's outdated. Like an old message in a bottle that drifted to shore long after it was written. So the painful silence from someone, the rejection from that job, the stagnation in money, none of it reflects what's being assumed now unless those assumptions haven't actually changed beneath the surface. That's not punishment. That's precision. The law works perfectly. Always. The outer world can only reflect the inner world. Not instantly, but faithfully. And the problem isn't in the delay, but in the misinterpretation of the delay. See, people often start to assume again. They assume they did it wrong. They assume it doesn't work. They assume the universe must have something better. But all of that is noise. The truth is that the 3D has no authority over what happens next unless you give it that authority. If the reflection looks like a version of reality you're no longer subscribing to, then it's not a warning. It's an invitation. An invitation to stop reacting, to stop adjusting the self to fit the mirror, and to instead let the mirror adjust to the new self. Because the longer someone stares at the current 3D and decides it means something about their worth, their path, or their power, the more they unknowingly keep breathing life into that very version. The trick is to see what's in front of you, recognize it as an echo, not a prophecy, and remain grounded in the truth that the present is never final. The present is a canvas, and your assumptions are the brush. You don't have to accept what's showing up just because it's loud. You don't have to engage with pain just because it looks real. What's real is what you say is real. And when you stop letting the 3D write your story, it has no choice but to adapt to the one you're finally writing for yourself. Think about how a mirror works. If someone smiles at their reflection, the reflection smiles back instantly. But in this reality, it's more like a delayed mirror. You smile now, but the mirror takes a few hours, days, or even weeks to catch up. And if you panic because the reflection didn't change right away, if you frown and say, "See, nothing's happening," the mirror will only respond to that new frown later. This is where people get stuck. They mistake the delay for failure. They interpret the lag as rejection. But the delay isn't proof that it's not working. It's proof that it is working. Just not by the rules most were taught to believe in. See, no one ever taught how time actually functions in this game. It's not linear. It's not consistent. It's reactive. It bends to belief. Neville Goddard said, "Change your conception of yourself and you will automatically change the world in which you live." But he also said, all transformation begins with an intense, burning desire to be transformed. What does that mean? It means that shifting identity isn't a light switch. It's not about one perfect affirmation or one perfect visualization. It's about persistence, not because the universe is testing you, but because the echo of the old story might still be ringing out. And this is where most people sabotage themselves without realizing it. They change their inner conversations for a few days. They shift into a new state for a week. But then something uncomfortable appears, and instead of holding their ground, they go back to doubting, overthinking, reacting. Not because they're weak or broken, but because no one taught them that the 3D isn't instant. No one told them that their reflection is lagging. So when they see no sign, no shift, no change, they assume the worst. They start whispering old assumptions again. Maybe I'm not chosen. Maybe I don't deserve it. Maybe this is just how my life is. And the mirror hears that too. But here's the deeper truth. The delay isn't the enemy. The reaction to the delay is. If the current experience is frustrating, painful, or stagnant, that doesn't mean something's gone wrong. It just means the mirror is still catching up to who you've decided to be. And the only way to speed it up is to stop reacting to the delay as if it means anything. Because it doesn't. The delay is just a buffer, a grace period where the universe is asking, are you sure this is who you are now? Are you sure you're done with the old story? What keeps people stuck isn't the delay. It's the emotional spiral that follows. It's when the mind says, this proves I can't have it, and that thought becomes a new assumption, which then becomes a new delay. This is why Neville emphasized living in the end, not just thinking about it, but dwelling in it, embodying it, assuming it, even when the 3D says the opposite. Especially then, Because the 3D doesn't need to confirm your new story for it to be true. You are the confirmation. And the mirror will reflect that, once you stop trying to make it prove something to you before you believe it yourself. Here's something that needs to be said, even if it's hard to hear at first. Most people don't fail at manifestation because they're doing it wrong. They fail because they keep reacting to a version of reality that no longer applies. It's like trying to swim forward while constantly looking backward. Every time a person checks their phone and sees no message, every time they look at their bank account and feel fear, every time they replay that conversation that broke them, they're mentally, emotionally, and energetically reinforcing the version of themselves that no longer fits the life they want to live. Not because they're weak, but because the 3D has been programmed for years to be the authority on what's real. It's been the proof. But that proof is false, outdated, recycled, irrelevant. Neville said, "Man moves in a world that is nothing more or less than his consciousness objectified." That means what's being seen is not reality. It's consciousness frozen in time. It's yesterday's thoughts showing up today. And if someone wants a new tomorrow, they have to stop arguing with what they see today. That's the trap. The mind says, but look, nothing is changing. And if that thought is accepted as truth, the loop continues. The assumption that it's not working becomes the very belief that keeps it not working. Most people don't realize they're doing this. They watch a video, feel inspired, shift into their new state. But the moment something familiar and painful shows up, a trigger, a silence, a dip in mood, they fall back into reaction mode. And that reaction isn't neutral. It's an instruction to the 3D. It's a vote for the old self. That's the power of consciousness. It's not passive. It's not waiting. It's always creating. Even when the conscious mind is scared or tired, the deeper assumptions are still shaping what's to come. So what happens? They start believing in circumstances more than themselves. They start choosing the external world as their compass instead of their inner world. And it's not their fault. The whole world is structured to reward reaction. Algorithms thrive on it. Conversations revolve around it. But this journey, this shift, it asks for something radical, non-reaction. Not because you're being tested, but because your reality needs time to recalibrate. And reacting every time something contradicts your desire only resets the calibration. It's like yelling at bread for not baking fast enough, then turning off the oven every 5 minutes to check if it's done. This is the part most people miss. Non-reaction is not weakness. It's not spiritual bypassing. It's alignment. It's power. It's saying, I see what's here, but I know what's true. And that knowing is what breaks the loop. That certainty, even when the 3D looks like a contradiction, is what finally brings it all into harmony. Not because the universe suddenly favors you, but because you stopped favoring what you used to believe. This might sound strange at first, but everything that's being seen right now, the people, the bank balance, the job situation, the texts or the lack of them, it's all old news. It's a press release about who someone used to be. The frustration comes from trying to interpret that old news as current truth. But manifestation doesn't work like breaking news, it works like a broadcast delay. By the time something appears in the 3D, the inner state that created it is often long gone, or at least, it can be. That's why reacting to the current situation doesn't just prolong it. It revives it. It tells the subconscious, this is still important. This is still who I am. And then the cycle continues. It's like walking through a house of mirrors, but every mirror is delayed by a few steps. So every reflection is of a moment already past. Yet if someone doesn't know that, they'll spend all their energy trying to fix what they see instead of continuing forward. They'll get caught up in why someone left, why money keeps slipping away, why their manifestations keep hitting a wall. And they'll try to solve those things in the 3D, texting again, pushing harder, obsessing over techniques. But none of that works long term, because they're fixing the symptom, not the source. The truth is, what's seen today is based on assumptions that might not even feel relevant anymore. But here's the key, just because the conscious mind has moved on doesn't mean the subconscious has caught up. There might still be remnants of old beliefs playing out, things absorbed years ago, voices from childhood, repeated inner stories like, I'm not enough, or I always get abandoned, or I have to work hard for love. These programs run quietly in the background until someone actively replaces them, and then persists long enough for the new pattern to show up in 3D. So when someone says, why does it still look like this? I've been affirming, I've been visualizing. Understand this, the seed has been planted, but it hasn't fully bloomed. And constantly digging it up to check if it's growing only delays the growth. The current version of reality is the delayed reflection of what used to be accepted. But the real question is, what's being accepted now? Because that's what's creating the next reflection. There's so much power in realizing this. There's relief in it, too. It means nothing seen right now is set in stone. It means the current 3D doesn't get the final word. It means someone can look at a completely barren garden and still know that flowers are on the way. not because they're hoping, but because they planted them. And that's where real peace begins. Not from controlling the outside, but from mastering the inner, knowing that what's seen right now is already on its way out, and something new is already on its way in. The truth is, what's showing up in the 3D isn't a verdict on your worth or how well you're manifesting. It's just a delayed snapshot of who you used to be. And the moment you stop reacting to it like it's truth, everything begins to shift. The new reality doesn't need to be chased. It just needs to be lived from, even before it's visible. That's where your real power is. Not in fixing the outside, but in knowing it no longer defines you. If this helped something land deeper, drop a comment below and share what hit home for you. Someone else might need to hear exactly what you've realized. I will meet you with another video. Happy manifesting.